Hey everyone, Mr. Macintosh here. Normally after I put out my video for supported Macs in the latest version of 15.4, I start testing against my entire fleet of 14 unsupported Macs against the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher. But with all the changes in 15.4, we needed a special version for compatibility, and after months of anticipation, we got it. 2.3.0 was released yesterday with full support for 15.4. The only problem was it was causing some issues with some machines, and we needed a hotfix that was released tonight, and now we have 2.3.1. So instead of doing the whole testing video against the entire fleet, I'm going to take this time and do a preview and explain what happened here and what you need to do before you update your machine. Plus, we also have to talk about a big change in 15.4 where Apple is enabling automatic software updates again, and you know that that's not good for your unsupported Mac because you can get into the version mismatch problem when you're patching your Mac and the update downloads in the background. So we definitely have a lot to cover in this preview video. Let's jump in and get started. So I wanted to explain my testing process when a new version of macOS Sequoia comes out. And Sequoia is the main focus here because it's the most popular. Everyone enjoys installing the latest version of the OS, even though there's a ton of support still for macOS Sonoma, macOS Ventura, and macOS Monterey, and even Big Sur. Most people are focusing on the latest version. I wish I could cover those older versions, but this is where all the action is. And it's important to follow along here because of all the changes that Apple is making to the latest version of the operating system. With macOS Sonoma and lower, we're just getting security updates, so there's not as many changes, and that's why they're more stable. And that's also why I recommend those previous versions if you need a very stable system. If you want to take advantage of all the latest fixes and features and improvements in macOS Sequoia, that's where we are. So when an update comes out, I have a fleet of 14 unsupported Macs that I test the latest version of Sequoia 15.4 against with OpenCore Legacy Patcher. So if I find an issue, I can tell you about it before you update your home Mac and maybe have an issue. Again, most people have no issues with installing the latest version of macOS and OpenCore Legacy Patcher. I always look at your comments below, and usually you put your comments in the supported Mac video, and I already read those and say, see, oh, we might have a problem here. I'm going to take a closer look at that. I'll look at Mac Rumors in the Sequoia thread. I'll also look in the main OpenCore Legacy Patcher Discord, and I'll put a link below in the description of the video so you can go there if you haven't visited there before. It's a wonderful forum with a lot of users working together to solve all these issues. And when I was checking tonight, I always want to make sure that before I start the testing to look and see if there's an issue first before I start installing on the systems, and sure enough, there was an issue. So on OpenCore Legacy Patcher Discord, moderator Monochrome tagged me and said, hey, if you're doing your testing, take a look because there's an issue with some Macs and vaulting. And as soon as I read that, I typed in a reply, which models are you seeing that issue with? And Makola reached out right away. Hey, he's like, guess what? Good timing. We got a hot fix coming. How great is that? That an issue was found and almost immediately a fix was in the works, and Jasny did this fix. And I'll show you what that looks like here. Makola shared the pull request where the vaulting was fixed, where Jasny did the code change for the vault issue here, and that's how we got 2.3.1. But now that we know what happened here, there's a lot of things to talk about, including if you already installed the update and you had vaulting on. For example, one of the issues is in Kepler and some iMacs, this is where vaulting is set inside OpenCore Legacy Patcher setting. So if you had installed 2.3.0 and installed those patches to your OpenCore EFI, your system was not booting after 2.3.0. So this fixes that, and what we're going to do next is go over all the changes in 2.3.0, and then we'll go over the automatic software updates that are being activated and what you need to do to turn those off. So now let's talk about the original update of 2.3.0. There was a lot of talk about why there was such a long amount of time between releases of OpenCore. And a lot of people are just fine because their system is working just fine with no issues whatsoever. Others are wondering, hey, why are we seeing more frequent updates? And the bottom line is that we know that this is an open source project. And The real thing is that all the people that work on this project have real lives. You as a viewer, most of you already know this and totally understand that. For new people to OpenCore Legacy Patcher, and there's new people every day, hundreds of people that are trying this out for the first time, and they might have certain expectations, and it's just better to understand that everybody is doing their best. Everybody has work, they have school, they have their home life, and they're doing their best to be able to contribute to this project on their spare time in their normal lives. And when there's a little bit of a gap, there's still work being done in the background, but they're being put together for a release like this where 15.4 requires a change. And here we are, and we have full support for macOS 15, and it's working very well. When I talk about the hotfix, you might think, well, why wasn't this caught ahead of time? Well, the thing is there's 84 different models to be able to test against, and that is a monumental task. Even Apple messes up with this sometimes. So the fact that this group of developers is able to keep this operating system and this patcher running so well is an amazing thing. With that said, we have full support, and the fact that a hotfix was released so quickly shows the dedication of the developers to get issues like this fixed as soon as possible. I'd rather have one or two hotfixes where the issues are being fixed than to have to do what Apple even does, is if there's an issue, you have to wait maybe a month or two before you even get an update to fix that. So again, nice job developers, you did a fantastic job here. So 2.3.0, again, the primary focus of this version is to bring 15.4 support for the patcher because of all the changes. If you watched my Sequoia supported video, you could see all the changes, 131 security fixes, a ton of feature and OS version changes. There was a lot of things that needed to be patched for OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Let's take a look at some of the primary changes here. The first issue resolved was resolve Broadwell widget rendering on macOS Sequoia. You can look at the list on Wikipedia, the Macs that are grouped under Broadwell. We're looking at MacBook early 2015 to iMac 2015. Those are the Broadwell CPU machines, all the way up to MacBook Air 2017. Those are the Broadwell systems. So that was fixed under 2.3.0. Next issue was resolved were some T1 communication issues on macOS Sequoia. So T1 is security chip. We got Touch ID that are all associated with the T1 security chip. And if we look, those Macs are all the way from 2016 to 2017 supported before the T2 security chip. The next thing is resolve some metal graphics issues on several operating system versions. Non-metal, for those that don't know, is anything between 2012 and newer. Apple did a big change where they implemented metal graphics acceleration, so usually around 2011 and lower, as non-metal graphic. There's actually a team of developers, a sentient bot at UKVAS, who do a lot of work to keep those non-metal systems running. And again, great work on the non-metal graphics teams. So that's the primary changes on 2.3.0. Now we'll take a look at the full changelog. Now, before we get to the full changelog, I want to mention supporting OpenCore Legacy Patcher. I always mention this in my update videos because the developers are, again, full open source, and with 84 different models, they are trying their best to get every single model in-house so they can test the patcher against these different models and configurations. So if you wanted to, and you have the means to be able to donate, you can click on Donate OpenCore Legacy Patcher and be brought to the Open Collective, and you can see all of the donations. And look, OpenCore Legacy Patcher is all of us. There is 3,191 contributors, and this is absolutely fantastic seeing everybody donate what they can to the Patcher project, and that shows how many people truly love this project. So now let's look at the full changelog. As we talked about earlier in the video, the 2.3.1 changelog is resolve an error in OpenCore vaulted configurations, regression from 2.3.0. What is OpenCore vaulted? So if we open up OpenCore Legacy Patcher and then we go into the settings, these are all the settings for OpenCore EFI. So if you set these here, they're being written to EFI and when you build OpenCore. And here's OpenCore Vaulting. This is off by default. But if you were testing this or you accidentally turned it on, this is where the trouble began for those particular machines and users. What is OpenCore Vaulting? Digitally sign OpenCore to prevent tampering or corruption. Vaulting is for protecting the OpenCore EFI against any kind of modification or tampering. Macola helped me understand this a little bit. What would happen is if any attempt or tampering was made to the EFI, the system would refuse to boot to protect the system. This is a great security feature if you want to be able to keep your system secure, but this caused the issue with 2.3.0 and certain systems, for example, Kepler and some iMacs. Again, this is defaulted off. If you had this on and you installed it and you're non-booting, we'll talk about that in a little bit later, but that's what this issue was in OpenCore. And now, what is also the interesting part is that originally the patcher was set that any of these settings in here would be reset anytime you open the app. So it's full. You would set these settings, click return, and click build and install OpenCore. And it would write to the EFI, and you're done. But when you close OpenCore Legacy Patcher and open it up again, these settings in here would be reset. So if you had turned this on, it would be free again. So it's a default configuration. But after some thought, it was made where you make a change in here and now it's saved to a plist file and it'll remember those settings. If you had turned on OpenCore Vaulting, it's going to be in there every time you build. And this is a very nice option. Let's say you are changing the boot picker timeout or you don't want to show OpenCore boot picker, you turn this off and it remembers it now. That's a great feature. But inadvertently, if you had turned this on, that's where the issue would happen, because now that remembered that setting and it would turn it on after the update and it would keep it on. Now let's look at some of the changes for 2.3.0. And the first one is disable crash analytics. This was initially put on the client side, and if there was a crash, it would send that up to the server, and this was actually then disabled after that. So it hasn't been working, and the analytics now have been fully removed from the client side. Next thing is that the OpenCore Patcher GUI app.zip is now fully removed from the release. And this was actually deprecated in 1.5.0, and we were told then to use the OpenCore Patcher package for installation. So let's take a look at that. If we go down to the assets, that app is now gone. And this is good because this does everything. The package installs the launch daemon, the launch agent, all the pieces, the application in the Dortania folder, everything, and the alias in applications. It's all set up. You don't have to move anything around. You don't have to do anything. That's why the package installation is the best way to go. And you got a full uninstaller. So if you want to uninstall OpenCore Legacy Patcher, just click on this package here, download this, and everything is removed from the system from the application-wise, not the EFI. You have to remove that manually, but everything on the system OS level is removed. We got a sync copyright label to 2025, and one of my favorites here, and you heard me talk about this through multiple releases. I was really happy to be able to work with Macola and try to help him resolve this issue. And I set up multiple test devices and sent over some logs to be able to talk about this issue. And what this was is that if your Mac needs the MetalLib support package, which is Macs are running around 2012 to 2015 that don't have AMD, you needed to download this package and cache it to the system first. So when you install the update and you come back up from the update, then you need to use the latest version of the MetalLib support package to merge and install the latest root patches to your system, just like the kernel debug kit. The kernel debug kit system did work. So for example, this Mac Pro 2013 would always be able to stash and download the kernel debug kit first and have it ready to go when it comes back up and needs to install it. But the MetalLib support package was not working. After going back and forth sending some logs to Macola, he found it right away. And what it was, and I'll show you, and this is the problem. This folder is library launch daemon, and any launch daemon that is in this folder will run as root when the system boots up, and then is sitting there and waiting. If we look at this, we can see what happens. Its watch path is this file location right here, system volumes update pre-flight. So when it notices a change is being done to this, for example, when an update is being installed or staged, it will kick off this binary right here, which is OpenCore Patcher Cache OS. And what that's going to do then is run this process. And if we take a look in here, we got the KDK handler here, which is basically saying we see a staged update is being prepared. We're going to go check to see if there's a new KDK available. There is, and it is found. We found the build version and the location. Let's download it and stash it. And then it continues to install and stage the update. And that's how the same way the MetalLib support package works too. This was missing from those systems that needed the MetalLib support package. So what happens is the 2.3.0 update put this back and everything's running perfect again. So that's a wonderful fix, and I'm so glad that that's working now. And there's also a resolved non-metal crashing on macOS Big Sur and macOS Sequoia 15.4. So let's talk about that. That was the issue with 2.2.0 and non-metal machines running macOS Big Sur. And you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, how many people are still running Big Sur and you had to be non-metal? Well, actually, a lot of people, because there was a lot of reports of installing 2.2.0 and then their system not booting if they're on Mac OS Big Sur and non-metal. So what's interesting is I didn't even realize this, is there might be an issue on 15.4 too on those non-metal. And I didn't even know about this part until reading this here. So that's why it's important that we get 2.3.1 installed on our system first before we update to 15.4. And that's why we've got the compatibility to 15.4 and 2.3.1. We already talked about the T1 Air on Sequoia 15.4, and we also enabled non-metal beta menu bar styling globally. No changes to the GUI settings. So let's take a look at that. So if we click on settings, and this is a metal supported Mac, so it's not going to be showing, but we can click on root patching, and this is the beta menu bar. Supports dynamic color changes. Note the setting is still experimental, and if you experience any issues, please disable this setting, but that's the beta menu bar that is now enabled. Final changes is that we got binary release changes, and one of the biggest ones is OpenCore. We've moved up to release 1.0.4, and if you're wondering where that is, you can click on the patcher again, go into settings, and you can click on app and then scroll down and you can see here's your OpenCore release 1.0.4. Okay, so now let's hop back into our screen recording and talk about what your plan might be for these two updates and your unsupported Mac trying to make the jump to macOS Sequoia 15.4. So my recommendation right now is to make sure that you are on 2.3.1. What that means is the 3 steps that I always talk about. Download the app, install OpenCore to your AFI, and then install the latest version of the root patches. Once you have all 3 of those done, you are testing to make sure your current system, whatever version it is on, works against the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher. And if so, and everything's working great, then you can make the jump. And again, I always talk about backing up your files. I might sound like a broken record here, but it's always better safe than sorry to have your files backed up just in case there's a problem that happens. Before making that jump to 15.4, make sure we have 2.3.1 installed fully and make sure it's working. Then we can make that jump. So let's jump to a system that is already installed 15.4 and has 2.3.1 on there. It's our non-metal Mac from 2011, and we will go through that process. So here's our late 2011 MacBook Pro, and we just installed the 15.4 update, and you can see that that launch statement kicked off and says, hey, we noticed that you installed an update, but you're now running without root patches. Here's all the patches available for you. Would you like to install those? Yes, we do. Click on OK. And we talked about this before. It's saying it's downloading, but what it's actually doing is it's installing that KDK package to library developer KDKs, and you can watch this happen live. So we see that the automatic downloader for the KDK worked just fine. It stashed the 15.4 package here. Now it's installing it, and once it has the folder here, all the files will be ready to go to be able to merge with the root patches. So let's give it a second here to finish installing this, and we'll move forward. And there it is. We got our folder, and it immediately started the root patching process. We already have the 15.4 KDK. We're good to go, and it's already installed right here. Found it, and now it's merging with the root volume. Once that's done, the system is going to come back up, and our non-metal system will be good to go. Now again, I'm going to test against all 14 machines, and I'm going to bring back those iMacs. I know I put those off to the side because they're just heavy and they take up so much room, but seeing how the latest version of 2.3.0 caused issues with one of those models, I think it's important enough, and many people have enough of the iMacs to bring them back into the fold and test the version against those machines. And I'm going to be able to do that tomorrow to test against the entire fleet. If there's something that you wanted me to test, let me know. I've been reading a lot of the comments about WhatsApp, running videos, VMs in Sequoia. Let me know in the comments what you are looking for when testing. So all the root patches are installed. Let's click on reboot and restart. So that's what I want to do in this quick preview video, is test one non-metal Mac and one metal Mac, which was our 2013 Mac Pro. We'll let that reboot here and we'll connect back into our 2013 Mac Pro. This example is a system that we upgraded as a test in my 15.4 supported video. And everything ran great with 2.3.0 and 15.4. But if we open up OpenCore Legacy Patcher, we can see we have an update right available because we've got 2.3.0. You don't need to install this if you're not using vaulting, but I always like to stay on the latest version so I don't have to worry about updates or anything like that, and I know I'm on the latest compatible version. If you have a working system on 15.4 and you're on 2.3.0, download and install that update and run through the full process. Again, then you're fully up to date and you don't have to worry about anything going forward. And we'll let this fully go and install. We have updated OpenCore Legacy Patcher to 2.3.1 and it's already taking us through the steps. So step 1 is complete. The app is updated. Now step 2 is to build and install the latest version of OpenCore to your EFI. So let's click on yes. And there it is. We'll click on install to disk. We'll click on our SSD and our EFI partition. Done. Step 3. Let's update those root patches. Start root patching. Again, the changes were made to OpenCore, not the root patching system. But if you want everything to be on the same board of 2.3.1 across the board, this then will log that we installed the latest root patches at 2.3.1 and we're good across the system. It might seem redundant, but once we do all this, we know fully across the board 2.3.1 across app, OpenCore, and root patches. Reboot to apply. Click reboot and restart. Okay, we're back up after the root patch install. We click on install post root patches and we will see that we're fully updated across the board 2.3.1 on April Fool's 2025. We did our quick preview, our non-metal Mac on 2.3.1, 15.4, and our metal Mac 2013 Mac Pro against 2.3.1. And again, stay tuned. I'm going to do the whole fleet of unsupported Macs in our testing video coming up hopefully tomorrow or the next day. It takes a while to set that whole setup up, but we do that because, again, we're trying to make sure that we don't find any issues to prevent you from having a possible issue on your Mac. Again, I'm lucky enough to be able to have these unsupported Macs to be able to do this testing, but a lot of people just have one Mac to be able to do, whether it's school work or just any work that you're doing on the side or just be able to watch a video or something. That person doesn't have the ability to do all this testing. The developers do a lot of testing themselves, but again, with all the different configurations, some small things can be missed, and that's why we do our testing here. Now that we got that done, let's talk about that automatic software update piece for 15.4. 15.4 now automatically enables, at the very least, download automatically. But if you click continue, updates it to download automatically and install updates automatically. And this is the splash screen that you could get after installing the 15.4 update. I received this on both of my supported Macs, but what's interesting is updating both of the unsupported Macs, we did not see this, but again, it can be different. Maybe it does turn on certain machines, but it doesn't on others. But you have to check this. I don't want to say that it didn't install on me and you don't even check, and then it updates for you, and then you run into the version mismatch problem. So let's use an example. Let's say you're in macOS Sonoma, and you're on 14.7.5. Automatic updates is on. It's not going to download a update. It's going to download Sequoia and stage it for your Sonoma device. Now, let's say you want to install a new root patch. Guess what? You can't because your system's modified because of the 15.4 update downloaded and staged. That's why we got to turn this stuff off. So if you click this, I'll show you the option that it selects. Apple doesn't really want you to click this. They want you to click continue. Have automatic updates automatically install. If you're an advanced user, you know that you can actually click this. It might just look like text, but you can click on this and this is what it'll do. It'll turn this on here, but that also stages the update and screws you up. Now, if you click on the continue button right here, what'll happen is that both of these will be on. So it'll download, stage, and it'll install automatically overnight. So if that happens on your system and you get that splash screen, and even if you don't get the splash screen, I would recommend going in here after installing 15.4, and you'll notice that it changed the software update pane here. And this might actually help Kepler too, because Kepler, we talked about that, was having software update issues with trying to get it to show up, install. We'll have to test that in our upcoming video with the fleet. But check this anyway. After you install 15.4, go in here, make sure these are both off. If they're off, you're set and you don't have to worry. And now you are in full control of your automatic updates. That's it for our explanation video for 2.3.0 and 2.3.1 and a quick preview of two systems. Again, stay tuned for the next update to test in the entire fleet. If you have any questions or comments, tell me in the comments below. Did you update? Is everything going good? How is 2.3.0 and 1 working on your system? Did you install 15.4? Are you still on Sonoma or Ventura or Monterey or Big Sur and you install 2.3.1 and everything's working well, or did you have an issue? Let me know in the comments. I always love reading through your experiences on how the patcher and the update installed on your system, and we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.